But there are people who want to build a new language community. I mean, this all sounds very dire, very bad news, but there is good news in that there are people who really want to try and use the language and who want to actually use the language rather than just use it for performance, because most of the activities so far are really about performance rather than actually using the language for communicative reasons. Hitz Adina has suggested this term metalinguistic community, which is meta means language, so it's language about language community, looking at the idea of language rather than efficiency, unfortunately. Right. So what we get are symbolic measures, which improve the status and prestige of Guernsey, but don't necessarily entail fluency or language maintenance by either new or native speakers. So here, for example, we've got a sign that says, "Welcome to St. Peter Port," which is the capital of Guernsey. And this is really aimed at tourists. It's in a tourist location. And it's kind of promoting linguistic heritage as something to pull in the tourists. But there is now a translation service. What has come, a good thing that's come out of this promotion of the language for linguistic distinctiveness is an actual reliable translation service, which wasn't there before. Here's another example of a symbolic thing. It says, I've highlighted this bit at the top. Kolimosho, or Kolimashan, is, that's somebody's spelling, is Guernsey for snail. This t-shirt is helping to keep our local language alive. And for £16, you too can keep our language alive just by wearing a t-shirt. Okay, this is we do have, where I work, we have a language archive, and we have deposited some recordings of Guernsey in the language archive. This is an archive which includes languages from all over the world, so we are trying to start to do some recording and documentation of language of Guernsey. Unfortunately, in Jersey, how are we doing for time? Okay, in Jersey, they have not been doing that yet, but I was there last week trying to kickstart a project to do that. There has been official support for Guernsey, which is the language of Jersey, since 1998. And they've been teaching it in schools, but again in a kind of peripatetic way, so not as a proper subject, but outside the main school hours. They have 3 people paid, or actually 5 people now, paid by the state to teach the language. But there's been a crisis because 2 of the teachers are reaching retirement age, and until like last month, nothing was done to replace them. Now they have 2 new teachers, but the 2 teachers don't speak the language really, so they have a very, very steep learning curve in order to start probably teaching next year. There is rather, in Jersey, the focus is very much on school lessons, to the exclusion of many other language activities. And there's a lot of focus on teaching the language as a written language to try and increase its status so it's more like French and English. But that again is perhaps to the exclusion of focusing on fluency. They are preparing a language plan, ... because it's not ready yet. I think I've seen 7 drafts so far. They have got a standardized dialect. Some of the native speakers criticize this because they think that this is kind of bastardizing the language. It's not really proper Guernsey, it's not the language that they knew and loved. And so standardization is felt to be necessary for teaching it in schools, but I think you have this issue here as well, that it's not really a variety that people can identify with. And some of the older people prefer to speak their regional dialects. There's also the problem that the richness, as I see it, of the regional dialects are dying out very rapidly. So I think it's really important to record those while we still can. There is some Guernsey in the linguistic landscape. I'll show you a few examples in a bit. And it also has a strong online presence. So there are thousands and thousands of internet pages with Guernsey texts on. Okay, here's one. This is a web page put up by the office aimed at children to support language lessons. Okay, they have a sign up. This is a sign at the port, the main harbour, saying "Welcome to Jersey" in French, German, and then Jerier. Okay, and they're also at the airport. There are other languages as well. Okay, this is a recycling lorry. So the capital of Jersey is called St Helier or St Heli in Jerier. So St Helier recycles. He's a saint. It's a bit strange. The guy who does this is rather strange anyway. Okay. There's a pub sign, street names. In both of the islands, the place names are all local indigenous place names, but many of them are mispronounced nowadays because most people don't know how to pronounce them. So La Nervru is the black road. This is a cider bottle. And there is right, it says, on the top it says cider from Jersey, and at the bottom it says all of the taste, nothing added in Jerier. So it's got a little bit of symbolic Jerier on that. I'm not going to show this video, I think, because it's no time now. Okay. One good thing that's come out recently in Jersey is this music group called Balabek. And actually the leader of the group, who's third from the right, called Kit Ashton, he's actually doing a PhD now in London, not at my university unfortunately, on the use of music in language revitalisation. And their songs are used in the school lessons, and they're quite good fun. If we have time, I'll show you a short video of them. Okay, oh, this is them. As I said, these are small island states, and small island states are small. And so they don't compete in the Olympic Games, they have their own kind of mini Olympics. So this is called the Island Games, and it happens actually, I think, every 2 years. Butterbeck were invited to perform at the opening ceremony of the Island Games, which is really quite a big thing. Okay, yeah. And although most of the songs they sing are kind of folk rock, semi-traditional, this one is a translation of a well-known song that you probably know already. It's a very nice translation. Okay, so this is quite good fun. Yeah. Unfortunately, his pronunciation is quite French. Jerier, as a spoken, actually sounds more like South African English rather than French. The local accent is not like the French accent at all. This is one of the problems, that people who learn the language and don't have many native speakers to talk to often have an influence from either English or French, depending on what they speak. Right. So, to sum up about Jersey, they have had support since 1998, 1999 when the lessons started. But unfortunately, they have not had any fluent learners come out of that. And this is a problem of exposure, that like in Guernsey, they're only 30 minutes a week, so they're not going to get fluent very quickly with that. But also, I think the methods of teaching are an issue there too. They try to teach it as a written language rather than as a communicative language. Like in Guernsey, most of the revitalisation measures are mainly symbolic, and often the target audience is unclear. One of the videos we didn't show you are of one of the language officers holding up a bottle of cider saying to businesses, you should use Jerier in your marketing because it will help you sell your business, sell your products, because and I think you have the same thing here as well. You have businesses which use some bask in the marketing. But this video is in Jerier, and the target audience don't understand Jerier mostly because most people don't, and there's no subtitle either. Okay. So basically we have very few proficient new speakers. Particularly, I think the most urgent thing is to develop new adult speakers, because if you don't have adult speakers, you can't have any children speaking the language. There is, in both islands, there is this big gap of the parent generation, which just simply does not speak the local languages. And if they don't do something very quickly, then this is really going to be the end, unfortunately. I said earlier that there are teachers being trained to teach in schools, but they don't really speak the language yet, so we just have to see how quickly they can learn. Because of this focus on teaching languages in schools, and because most of the emphasis has been on the language office in the last 18 years, the enthusiasts, people who are really interested, language activists, feel quite sidelined by this. Some of them I talked to last week really would like to teach the language. They're very keen on learning the language. They're not very good at learning language. That's another issue. But because it's run by the government required the teachers to have a teaching qualification. So you've got the irony that people who speak the language don't have a teaching qualification, they can't teach it. The people who have a teaching qualification can't speak the language, they can't teach it either. So what do we do? Maybe both of them together? Okay. And there's also been a lack of security or continuity in funding, so that all the time the teachers are told, oh, we don't know if we're going to have any money in 6 months. So this is not really very good for their morale. Which means, basically, it means there's a big decline in language, in speakers of the language, and also, as I said, the loss of regional varieties. But the reason I was there last week was with another colleague from Cambridge University. We are trying to kickstart a project which will combine recording the language with a mentoring program, or what in some places is called a master apprentice program, or volunteering for the language, I think the Catalans call it. So we're going to encourage people who are learning Guernsey to pair up with native speakers and record the sessions